Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another special live edition of Guns and Gadgets. We don't get to do them as often, but with the suppression of the channel getting kicked up to the high level the last 28 days, it seems to be the best way to get the word out. We are welcomed with my friend Rick Travis from CRPA. We'll talk to him in about 2 seconds. Just a little quick housekeeping here. Number one, please like and share the video because that is going to help get the actual word of freedom out. Because like I tell you in today's video earlier, the suppression, not only on this channel, but any channel that has to do with the truth right now, especially Second Amendment related, they don't want this getting out, guys and gals. So please share that as well. And if you would like to support the channel in even the slightest way, you can always do that on Patreon. And I always forget to put it out because people ask. The link is on the screen right there. Welcome, our special guest from the California Rifle Pistol Association. This is a big get for us here on the channel. Rick, thank you, sir, for taking time out of your schedule. I know you guys have a ton going on in California. So thank you so much. Your time, I know, is valuable. Thank you, my friend.
No, thank you for having us on.
Absolutely. So why don't we start out at the very beginning? There's a lot of people here from California. I was taking a peek at the comments, but there's even more people from all around the country because the case we're going to talk about could impact a lot of people. So maybe just tell some folks about CRPA and how you've been involved and a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So the California Rifle Pistol Association is actually celebrating its 145th anniversary. We're second in age only to the National Rifle Association. We were actually their first state association, meaning that we worked with them on competitions and shooting sports since 1875. We also were instrumental in California with hunting and conservation policy, because at the time we came into existence, California back then, ran by Democrats back then, had outlawed hunting by civilians like you and me throughout the state. And so that was one of the other things the organization very early on got involved with, was reopening that up for hunters. And we've maintained that influence within firearm safety, competitive shooting, of course, legislature, courtrooms, and the hunting conservation movement ever since 1875. My role with them is as the development director. I've held a couple different positions with it. I work a lot in the hunting and competitive shooting sports, as well as on some of the legislative actions that lead to courtroom battles, such as Duncan v. Becerra, which was a result of a political war back in 2016 between our then Lieutenant Governor, now Governor Gavin Newsom, with his Proposition 63, which was called the Gun Safety for All Act. And I think a lot of voters, like many, do not read what's underneath that little tagline. And so they vote for the tagline. And who doesn't want safety for all? And so it passed by a fairly narrow margin, but it did pass. And it was a mirror copy of 6 other pieces of legislation in California were called gut amend bills, which, to take an hour-long conversation, shrink it down to about 30-second soundbite, is you might have a bill that had to do with putting a crosswalk into the school because kids have been killed, and an assembly member guts the entire bill at the last second, rewrites it to be an anti-gun bill, passes it literally in one day, and gets it to the governor's desk, and the governor signs it. And that was done because at that time, the head of our Senate, Kevin De Leon, wanted to be governor. And so there was this match, and we were the piggy caught in the middle, so to speak. So there were several elements. One of those was the term in California they like to use. We hate it, but it's called a large capacity magazine versus the 10-round magazine in California. And I liken the 10-round magazine to that donut tire that you get in the back of your car. Yes, you could use it, but nobody in their right mind out in the field with a 4-wheel drive wants to use the donut tire because it's just not safe. Same idea is that a standard capacity magazine was designed for that firearm to be used for self-protection, and anything short of that is just limiting you. And we know criminals aren't going to carry the 10-round magazines. So when you look at a home invasion, why would I handicap any law-abiding citizen with 10 rounds when I've got 3 to 4 criminals coming down the hallway with 15, 17 rounds, depending on what the firearm is, at me? That's not good tactics.
Right.
And so we went ahead and sued on this. We had several plaintiffs that joined the CRPA. The NRA helped fund it at the beginning. Since then, they've had other fights. So we've been funding this the rest of the way through the battle. And it's not cheap. It's expensive to fight the the state, because the state doesn't have to pay that bill. The taxpayers do.
Absolutely.
So we have been fighting it. We won in a lower court back in 2017, and that gave what was affectionately known in California as Freedom Week, which was in 5 days, we imported almost 1.6 million magazines into the state. A lot of the rest of the country got really upset, like, where'd all the magazines go? They went to California.
I was one.
But as a result, that judge, who is known as Judge Benitez, we call him Saint Benitez here in California, he wrote a beautiful opinion that I encourage everybody to go and read, because it is an incredible primer on your Second Amendment rights. And if you've ever been fearful of how to speak to somebody or have a good set of talking points, up until recently, that was probably the best document I could point any lay person to.
Right.
That has now been followed up with a 3-judge panel from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which we used to call the Ninth Circus, because historically it's the most overturned court among the circuit courts in U.S. history. But since Donald J. Trump became president in 2016, he has worked very hard to change the makeup of that court. We're almost at parity, mean 50-50 conservative to liberal judges. We had a 3-judge panel. 2 of the 3 judges, with the help of Justice Lee, handed us down an affirmative that we were right and the state was out of line on this. And that opinion is incredible because it's timely. Justice Lee took in all the arguments currently going on around us with the civil unrest, defunding of law enforcement, et cetera, and showed how this law actually put people of color, people of socioeconomic levels at a disadvantage, and that the Second Amendment was designed not to do that. Of course, Becerra, who's our Attorney General, along with Governor Newsom, threw a fit. And so this last Friday, we entered into a 21-day period of waiting to see if the court will take the en banc, which is an 11-judge panel. That will be decided on 2 bases. The first basis, it can't happen. That is, the court would have had to say, oh, this 3-judge panel grossly acted out of line with the rest of the decisions from the Ninth Circuit. They didn't. So the second one is where Becerra put all of his eggs in the basket, which is a public safety appeal. So once again, the term gun safety, the safety of the people. These magazines are the only thing that's used in mass shootings, which isn't true. And that's a piece I wanted to kind of open up with you, Jared, is that one of the things that Justice Lee did in this opinion that is so vital for everybody is he got the state of California to accept 2 different numbers, which was a low end and a high end number. And we'll focus on the low end number because the state accepted it. That every day of the year, there's a little over 657 Americans that pull their concealed carry firearm and save another individual's life. And that's non-law enforcement. That's people like you and I, which accounts for 250,000 lives saved a year, which he said, while it's tragic what has happened in these mass shootings, if you were to put the lives in the balance, we should be erring with all these people that are rightfully using their firearm for the right reasons it was intended for and saving more lives than we're losing.
Absolutely.
And I think that's critical because that is the demarcation between a gun grabber and someone who really cares about life.
Right. And when that 3-judge panel decision came down, I did my best to read it as fast as my eyes could absorb it. And when I saw, I mean, you're well aware of how judges deal with things, especially when they're following the agenda. And for somebody who follows as much as I can from across the country, we get used to seeing, the cliches, and we know they're going to word things certain ways so that it kind of takes the onus off of them. But when I saw the terms come out that, the big one, strict scrutiny, right. But when they actually threw out the fact that, yes, people actually legally use their lawful items to save lives, that was like a breath of fresh air. I sat back and I smiled and I actually thought that and I still think that this could be really, really good for us. What do you, as somebody who fights as much as you guys and gals do in California, do you guys have the same fuzzy feeling off this? Obviously, we have some more hurdles we have to go through, and I want you to talk about the 23, or what happens after the 21 days and where we go from here, because the en banc might not even happen.
Right.
But what do you, do you get that fuzzy feeling off of what the 3-judge panel said?
Yeah. So one, I love the decision. And I think, again, that's another one of those primers that all of us as gun owners should be reading, because it's just filled with wonderful facts and talking points that you don't have to yell at the person next to you. You can have a reasonable conversation and give them a very compelling argument that will fly in the face of what's been going on. And we've been able to use that because in California, because of COVID, like in a lot of other parts of the country, we've had a lot of people that I would have said were politically centrist to slightly to the left that have now become gun owners for the first time and have been absolutely appalled at the number of lies they've been told and have started to listen and read up on this and started to switch sides, join our organization, others like us to fight back, which is great news. So that's one of the things I've been also trying to push to people, that the Second Amendment's not a Republican document, it's an American document. And remember that when you're talking to people, because it's easy because we've been beat up so much by the left to just label everybody in one basket, and this is not the case. I hope that they actually push this and it goes to the Supreme Court. And for the reason that you cited earlier, that whole idea of strict scrutiny, there's 3 levels of judgments. The first one is so loosey-goosey that you can make anything whatever you wanted it. But then coming up to the midline, it favors the government. Strict scrutiny is the one that favors the U.S. Constitution. And that is what was argued by Scalia in both Heller and McDonald. And that's why those 2 landmark cases were so important, because it was saying up that all Second Amendment cases should be judged that way. But they actually need a 3rd case to like just lock that down. And with the absence of that 3rd case, we've been in a situation we have since Heller and McDonald, where we've had a lot of legislating from the bench and a lot more subjective reasoning than objective reasoning. And so one of the things we love in Duncan v. Becerra is there's 2 parts of this I think are lost on the average person. The first one is everybody got very upset when they saw the New York case get kicked out this last year. And the New York case got kicked out because the point was moot. And what that basically meant was, and you can just imagine Bloomberg, Soros, and others like that had called up the state officials and said, hey, if this goes through the Supreme Court and they side in a majority on this with New York, that becomes law of all the territories and all the states. And we can't have that because that will keep us from grabbing more firearms, which is their goal on that side. So what they did was they asked the state to just kill the law, which is what they did, which makes it so now the Supreme Court can't rule because there's no longer a conflict. The unique thing about Duncan v. Becerra is that proposition that our governor got through. He can't undo that. That is part of the canon of California. The only way it can be undone is through the Supreme Court. And it sets up an existing conflict between different district courts, which that's now the role of the Supreme Court, to take a strict scrutiny case on the Second Amendment that's in conflict. This has all those hallmarks. It's what several of the justices on our side have been asking for. And why it's so critical is everybody keeps looking, it's kind of funny, they keep looking at the magazine issue. Like, when can I buy the standard capacity magazine? It's just what's there. What people aren't realizing is, let's say that this goes through, whether we have to wait just for 21 days and we can kick it up, or we have to go through a 6-month process to get it there. But let's say it goes through. Once it gets to the Supreme Court and they decide on strict scrutiny, this opens up about 150 plus cases nationwide to take back the Second Amendment and get all these things re-adjudicated that will give us our rights back nationwide. That is why it's such a pivotal case.
It is. It's huge. Before we go further, one thing I always do whenever I have guests on, especially from Pro 2A organizations, being somebody who is a member of many, I do know how expensive it is to not only initiate a lawsuit, but to have it go so many steps and even up to the Supreme Court. And I even know that amicus briefs are extremely expensive. I want to implore my viewers that even if you do not live in California, please join CRPA. Link is on the bottom of the screen. I also put it in the comments. We are live on Facebook and on YouTube. So if you could share that link, please. I also want to do a solid for CRPA. If there is anything that is donated tonight on the super chats through YouTube, I am donating 100% of that to the CRPA. Not only because, thank you, my friend, and not only because I fully believe in what you guys are and gals are doing in that organization, but this case, this is what could just be that, the tip of the iceberg. And I hope it gets there. I really do, because like Benny, when they punted those 10 cases over and over and over and ultimately decided not to take them, meaning the Supreme Court. Those of us who were talking behind the scenes were like, yeah, even the New York case, even if they take that case and rule on it, it's really only affecting a very small sliver of an infringement in New York. And it's not going to affect cases that don't have that similar status. But this case, I live in Massachusetts. This state believes that somehow that 11th round in a magazine makes you an assassin. Right. And I would love to see this case just, change the way we've been going the last 15 to 20 years. So the link is on the screen, crpa.org. Please join. It's not expensive to join. If you skip out on 2 pizzas for the year, that'll fund your membership on CRPA. And anything that comes through on the Super Chat, I will donate 100% of the proceeds to CRPA because I think that you guys need it. So if you can, without throwing out any specifics, just give the viewers a ballpark of how much a case costs to initiate the lawsuit and to follow it through, if you could.
Start to finish, from the local courts all the way through. A case can vary anywhere from $1 to $3 million when it's all said and done.
Exactly.
And right now, as our organization, we have 30 cases that are in those different points.
And you guys have some other stuff that's come out in the last few weeks where you might have to get involved too.
We've got, as of today's votes in our legislature that have been going on all weekend, we've got about 4 more cases at least that we're going to have to file. So
yeah, AB 2847 came through today, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's another video altogether. But if you guys live in California, you need to jump on CRPA because that's going to shrink the amount of handguns you get on the roster. It's crazy. All right, so let's talk about how brilliant Judge Benitez was, where his stay has now come up at a time where, the left and Soros and his bust-in people are doing us a great service. Because now you have mobs of 15 or 20 people attacking individuals, and how are you supposed to defend yourself with 10 rounds? Right. Can you speak a little more towards what his stay was and just what it means for today's times? Well,
yeah. So one of the things was everybody got really upset because they're like, how does a judge who's hand down this wonderful decision that kicks off Freedom Week cap it at the end of the week? And so a lot of people saw him, and still some do to this day, as a turncoat, which is absolutely wrong. What he did that was so impactful was he put a stay on his own ruling. So he's the only one that can remove that stay. So let's look at a world where he hadn't done that, and Becerra had been able to get a different type of ruling done with that stay no longer in place. For those of us that had already prepossessed those magazines before we went after the injunction, or those that got during Freedom Week, could have potentially lost them already. We could have potentially been forced to either become a criminal or to turn them in. So by Benitez doing his own stay, he protected those of us that were grandfathered in or purchased during Freedom Week, not only the ability to be able to use them, but the vast majority of counties in our state that issue concealed carry permits have allowed us that have those magazines to carry those magazines in our concealed carry firearm. And that would not have been possible without him putting his own stay on. The second part that's been brilliant is because right now, as we're going through this process in the Ninth Circuit, at any of the points that there's been a ruling, the Attorney General could have shopped the judge's bench and found a liberal judge to give him whatever kind of ruling he wanted to again go after those. He can't do that. He's been handcuffed by Judge Benitez. And that's why we call him Saint Benitez, because he is always watching out for us.
Absolutely. And it came down almost like poetic justice. It's perfect of the time that it's actually coming up. So for those who aren't aware of everything that goes into a lawsuit, and people get bent when it's appealed, now it's over, can you just tell the folks exactly what it means now that it was appealed to en banc, and what goes into the judge's decisions to decide to take up that case, and what happens if they do take it up versus if they don't?
Okay, so what has to go into it is the judges, well, it starts off with the Chief Justice of the Ninth Circuit has to decide if this is even, the complaint from the Attorney General is even worth shipping off to the other judges. So I doubt this is going to happen, but anytime in the first couple of days, he could say, nope, and it's just dead right there. And at that point, that's the ruling of the Ninth Circuit. He also has the ability to ship this out to the rest of the judges, and then they can collectively vote on should they do this. So here's the kind of interesting thing. It's like anything in business. If you tell everybody, oh, well, sure, we can go look at what Sam's doing, but that means Sam gets to look at what you're doing. Often we're like, oh, not that big a deal what Sam's doing.
Right.
Same idea with this. If they review this 3-judge panel, they got to realize that could come back and bite them on one of their rulings. So that is why the court is very reluctant. It's only about a third of the time that they actually grant an en banc because they don't want to do it. That is why I said it brings it back to those two reasonings for it. One is, have they been inconsistent? In this case, no, they weren't. Second one is the public need, does it outwarrant constitutionality and all the other things that they've already ruled that were violated? If the public need can be shown by the state, in this case, to be so great that maybe we need to look past that, then that could grant the en banc. And that's an iffy proposition given the makeup of the Ninth Circuit right now. So we don't know which way it's going to go. I mean, it's literally a toss-up. But let's say they go ahead and say, yes, we're going to do the en banc. It will go to 11-judge panel that's randomly picked. Again, that could be 6-5 in either side's favor. So that's not a for certain, which is why I keep telling people, don't go, oh, here we go again. But then at the very end of this, here's what I'm looking at. So at any of these points, if it stops before going to the Supreme Court, it's the law for the Ninth Circuit, which is all the states and territories in the Pacific under the jurisdiction of that circuit. If it goes to the Supreme Court, it's law of the land. And this is where it comes back to November 3rd and why I'm out talking to every gun voter or gun owner and saying, you got to get out there and vote. This is ridiculous when you look at the number of people who own firearms. If we voted as a block nationwide, we could have just about whatever government we wanted to. But the problem is a lot of our people are armchair quarterbacks. They love to comment, they love to do stuff, but for some reason they can't fill out a ballot or go to the voting booth. I'm a person that I walk my talk. Every election, I take 9 other people besides me and make sure they vote. I don't vote for them, but I do that because that's what we have to do. That's what the opposition does. I mean, they get buses, they have ballot parties, they do all that stuff, and we've got to fight back just as hard, if not harder. And this election is critical because I doubt Justice Ginsburg can survive another 4 years given her health. I'm not trying to be mean. Even though I personally don't care for her, but I would never wish ill on another human being, but I doubt she's going to make it the 4 years. And you're looking at whoever's the president of the United States will be able to decide what the court's going to look like for at least 20, 30 years. Right. And what scares me is, I'm not speaking as CRPA, I'm speaking as just Rick Travis, Joe Q citizen, but I seriously doubt that if Biden got elected, he would assume the office of president or stay there longer than 6 months before his vice presidential candidate, Kamala Harris. And as an attorney general in this state, the district attorney for San Francisco and our senator, I will tell you, she is by far the most anti-Second Amendment candidate. She's transactional. She'll say whatever it takes to get whatever she wants to whoever she has to do it for. You can see that during the primaries. I will not talk to Joe Biden until he's held accountable for what he did against women. Right. Oh, but if I'm going to be the vice president, sure. Don't have to be accountable. But she is a person that she has never seen a piece of anti-2A legislation she didn't like. And she's part of a cadre that comes out of California, unfortunately, who will tell you you can walk anywhere in California, be perfectly safe, but they'll go to Beverly Hills. They'll go up in the wine country where no one has been killed in decades. And they've got 3 limousines with armed guards to go shoe shopping during the middle of the day. But,
and she's a gun owner.
Right. And the part that you may find interesting on that is, and I tell people, don't take my word, go back and look. She testified during in several different interviews that she did smoke marijuana while she was in college listening to Snoop Dogg. Well, the problem is she graduated from college before Snoop Dogg put out his first album. So either the Snoop Dogg part's the lie or that's the truth, which means she was smoking marijuana while she was an officer of the court. That is against the law.
Yeah.
But she also bought a firearm and filled out a 4473, which we all know has a federal question that if you answer yes, you're not buying the firearm. And that is, have you used marijuana? Which implies she lied, which means she should be disbarred. There's a whole lot of things that should be happening. Of course, me saying anything like this makes me anti-women, anti-everything, but
oh, of course. Yeah, the truth hurts. Truth hurts. It's funny you say that, because I was gonna be like the bonus question. I wanted to ask you, how dangerous would a Vice President Kamala Harris be, because you guys and gals have lived that for the last umpteen years. She's just horrible, and I'm really surprised that she hasn't garnered more heat yet from the multitude of pro 2A groups that we have out there, because she's so phony. It's obvious what she wants. It's obvious she's after, eyes on the prize, and she is super dangerous. It's serious, guys and gals. If you're out there watching, this is the election of our lifetime as of right now. This is far more serious of a decision than it was 4 years ago. Kamala Harris is much more dangerous than Hillary Clinton would have been for the Second Amendment. And you guys and gals have to get over this silent majority stuff. We have to come out and vote this year. I know there's a lot of people that every time I say it, say, I don't vote. My vote's not worth it. It doesn't matter. I live here. This person's my senator. Get over it. Vote anyway. Get people, get friends, start talking about who you, factors of the election now, especially if you know some of those new members of our community, the 5 million new gun owners. We are the old guard. It's on us now to educate them. And if you don't get out and vote, you really can't bitch and complain about what happens. You have to actually make the effort. So please, guys, you heard right from him. He's out there in California. He's been fighting Kamala Harris and her edicts for years. She didn't just drop into Joe's lap. She's been at this for a long, long time, and hasn't never been a friend of the second. Thanks for bringing that up, man.
One of the things I'd say about Kamala Harris too is, if you go back to just the marijuana question, despite what your feelings personally might be, while she was breaking the law, she also had the highest incarceration rate of Black men for marijuana abuse.
Absolutely. And she also, we could also go into the stuff where she, withheld facts of cases that kept people in prison, when they didn't do what they were charged with. She's terrible, horrible.
So I look at people all the time and say, if you are ever looking at those candidates from, Cold War movies and stuff that would lock people up away and find all sorts of egregious ways to do it, she is the champion of that kind of politics. And, she doesn't care. Her attitude when she was our attorney general was, so sue me and I'll see you in 10 years, but the next 10 years I own you. That's her attitude.
Yeah, she's a class act. So what do you, regarding the Duncan case, what do you have any, I guess, is there a percentage on, because I guess, so as somebody who works in and around courts, I know that no judge loves to be made a fool of, or to be told that this decision was wrong. And by en banc taking up this case, basically says that these three judges were wrong and didn't really have a clue. Is there a percentage of or a guesstimate how often en banc in the ninth, how often they take up a case from a 3-judge panel decision?
It's 3 out of 10 times, or 30%.
Okay. So hopefully, and you guys and gals are in it for the long haul. So if it does go en banc, you're going all the way.
Right. And that's been the hard part, because a lot of us would like to see this go up. We were actually wondering if they were going to push and roll the dice. They rolled the dice. We'll see where it goes. I think the governor's in a tight position because he's already went on the record several times during COVID that he wants to be the presidential candidate in 24. So again, this is us in California when we say we're trying to stop them before they go nationwide. That's not a joke. We're trying to stop these people before they can get a leg up to go nationwide.
Now, what is something that both residents of California and residents of the rest of the states could do to help right now regarding this case?
Right now in this case, getting out there and getting people to understand it, talk to them about it, because one of the things that we've noticed here in California, as a lot of this gets started, we've got, Soros has held a conference 2 years in a row out here to train people to be anti-gun. We get faced by like 15 different groups that, when you look at them, they're all financed by Bloomberg, as an example, or Soros. So it's really one group with 15 different names fighting us, but that has an optic effect in the press. And so we really encourage people, start cataloging who's in your area, what they're doing. Understand that you can't just ignore it because it's not going to go away. You can't run from it because we're seeing places like Austin, Coeur d'Alene, Boise, places that used to be completely red. Nothing bad's ever going to happen. It's now starting to become pink or purple in color. And so one of the things we tell people is A, be on alert, and B, follow us. I mean, we'd love to have you join us. We have a lot of people from out of state join us, but follow us and start learning, and don't put your head in the sand and say it's not coming to you, because believe me, they're trying to take all of this nationwide. In our state, to kind of show you what we're facing, this is just one part. We have a draconian set of rules to get ammunition now, and we have a lawsuit that could be coming out of the 9th anytime now, or next couple of weeks, and that will be the Rohde v. Becerra case, named after the Olympian Kim Rohde. And that is dealing with the fact that if I go buy a firearm in California, it could be 10 to 20 days before I clear the background check, that I can go buy the ammo with a separate fee that goes through the same NICS system, and 10 minutes later I cleared the background check to buy the ammunition.
Right.
It's that kind of stuff, and it's all been designed to kill the culture of gun ownership in the state. They're trying to take our dogs away from us, from hunting. I mean, it's just nitpicking at all the angles. And too many times in our community, we say, oh, well, I'm a shotgun shooter. That's 3-gun, doesn't apply to me. Or I'm a hunter, or I'm not a, we can't do that. We're all Americans. We're all protected by the Second Amendment, and any attack on any part of it is an attack on all of us. And it's got to be thought that way.
Yeah, absolutely. We are, those of us of the Second Amendment community, we are the biggest fractured community. There's so many problems we find with each other when we really should be pulling together and fighting together. I like to say, I wish we were all in the same boat rowing in the same direction, because it would be a lot easier to get to our final destination. But yeah, and I'm really hoping that people come out of the woodwork to stop the Biden Harris, the sniff and blow team. But we have to stop them this year. It's really, really imperative, because I think personally, I really think that this is the last chance to do the right thing through voting. I think if this crew gets in, then fundamentally the nation's going to change.
Well, and I agree, and this is what I've been telling people. I think it's one of the talking points I'm using as I'm out, speaking to different groups, is that if you really look at this, the Second Amendment shall not be infringed isn't just about the Second Amendment. In my view, that is the bookend on the First. All those rights in the First are protected by the Second. You lose the Second, you lose the First. And the living example of what is being offered by the far left is socialism that we all watched under the communist bloc during the Cold War. If you look to countries like Romania, Croatia, why are they passing Second Amendments? Because they realized during that reign of terror, once the socialists got involved, that without that ability to defend oneself, to stand and resist the government, you were nothing but a slave. And so I think it's ironic that we've got people today, they're like, well, do we really need the Constitution? When the people that were on the opposition for us are fighting to have exact copies of our Constitution.
Right. Yeah. And that's a byproduct of taking away all the civics classes and all the real stuff we should know from schools. You indoctrinate the kids at a young age, and you take that knowledge away from them, and this is what happens.
Yep.
Is there anything else you want to throw out there I know there's a lot of questions and insecurities around these cases, so I'm hoping that this brings out or at least answers everything for everybody. Know that it is a process that doesn't really care about our feelings. But is there anything else that you think people might need to know, and also how they could join the CRPA?
Yeah, so a couple things I would say is there are a lot of Second Amendment cases across the country that are put forward by people like the National Shooting Sports Foundation, the Second Amendment Foundation, and others. And National Rifle Association, of course, is one of the biggest. And I think what you have to do is look at who's the named plaintiff. And if you're going to support whatever cases you want to support, then support that named plaintiff. Because like you said earlier, Jared, amicus briefs do cost money and stuff, but sometimes amicus briefs are used by different groups just to fundraise. And that kind of takes away from the group that is actually on the front line fighting the battle. So I never get upset when somebody's like, oh, well, we're going to give our money to, insert the hunting organization, whatever, because they're the named plaintiff. I'm like, and rightfully so. You should do that because they're the ones that are on the front line taking the beating and having to put up all the costs for the case. And so I would say, one, become educated about that and see who's the named plaintiff and back them. And then secondly, I would say, yeah, donate to us at crpa.org. If you have questions, you can always write to us at contact@crpa.org and tell us the question came from this program, and we will get back to you usually within about 2 days, because we want you to have the answers that you're seeking, because a better informed community is a stronger community. And before you go after your fellow brothers and sisters in this community, check it out, because on more than one occasion, it has been disinformation provided by the likes of Bloomberg and Soros that have divided this community. And we got to start listening to each other and supporting each other and quit allowing people outside the tent to cause civil wars within it.
Yeah, they like to pick us apart because it's pretty easy, being the fact that there's so much going on that people are trying to stay abreast to. I want to, again, thank you. I know how busy you guys are in California right now. There's just stuff dropping left and right. Thank you for your time. It is honored to have you. It's the first time you guys have been on here. My show, my channel is an open door. If you ever want to come on to reach the masses, get some word out, just let me know. It's not a problem. I'd love to have you.
Well, Jared, I'll be in contact because I'd love to be able to come back again.
We appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so much. All right, guys and gals. I'm not going to keep him much longer because his time's important and they got work to do in Cali. But seriously, if you haven't considered joining, please do. I would never ask you, and I never have asked you to do something that I don't believe in. And as I said before, everything donated during the show will go to CRPA to fight for this case because it is that damn important. If there is anything that, like he said, if you use any information you'd rather get right from them, reach out to them. I did it myself. That's how I find out some stuff, is reaching out to CRPA. You guys do a hell of a job.
Thank you.
Real last thing. If you had to choose Kamala Harris or Elizabeth Warren, which one would be better for president?
Mars. Mars.
That's awesome. All right, my friend. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Seriously, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Okay.
All right, guys and gals. Like always, thank you for your time. Please like and share. Spread this like wildfire. This could be the case, guys. This could be it. There's really nothing else in front of the Supreme Court. So hopefully this case is done right all the way to the end. And until we see each other again, be safe, stay vigilant, carry a weapon, and join CRPA. Take care, everybody.